All right, hello and welcome to the second episode of the Filmbox Podcast. I'm your host and your mentor and your guide on this magical journey that we've sent ourselves onto, Aaron Souza.
Joined by his sage, his mentor, his guru. It's me, Connor. How we doing?
Oh, God. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing just peachy, my friend.
We say this like we haven't actually been talking to each other for a half hour.
No, I get a text from you saying, let's record. I hop on. As soon as we end this, I'm never talking to you again until the next time you text.
I put you in carbon freeze until it's time to record, and then I pull you out of of stasis, and it's like, record! And that's it.
Pretty much.
All right, well, we got a whole host of things to talk about today. It's a busy few days in the movie industry since the last time we recorded. Not really. Not really, but we're getting there.
We got stuff to talk about. That's all that matters.
Absolutely have stuff to talk about. Yeah, we're gonna be obviously we have some news to talk about. We've got kind of a recap of what we've been watching lately. We're actually gonna go into a little bit the behind the scenes, our first behind the scenes bit of the making of Star Wars, the original. It's very interesting. If you haven't heard the story, you haven't heard it, it's definitely worth a listen. And then we're going to be ending with some fun bits, so we'll see how that goes.
Yes, we shall.
But let's roll right on into the news. I should have like a like a
horn,
like a newsreel or something. Yeah, there we go, like a news ticker. But yeah, so
I'll kick us off.
Jamie Lee Curtis of Halloween fame is teasing that the Halloween Ends trailer might be coming next week.
Yeah, so
pretty cool stuff.
On Twitter, she tweeted out a pumpkin with the date 7/20 on it. You know, she's 3 months off from being on the Lord's Day, 4/20, but whatever.
Oh my God.
So I don't know if I've made this clear for the show or not, but your boy is a big horror movie fan. Love the Halloween movies. The good, the bad, and the weird.
Yeah. Halloween 3 comes to mind.
Oh, yeah. Eventually we'll talk about that, because I got some thoughts, but anywho, people involved are saying that this one will be interesting.
Yeah. They tweeted, and if I actually put out a tweet the other day, and if you don't follow the Filmbox on Twitter, it's at the Filmbox Pod on Twitter. Follow it. We give some great movie opinions and keep updated with the news on there as well. But they said that it's going to be like they're gonna like move away from what they've been doing in the previous two installments of this like reboot / sequel / requel /
yeah. I think requel is probably the best.
Requel's probably the best because it's these timelines are way too complicated.
We're in the age of the requel anyway, so.
But they did say that the third installment in the trilogy is going to be weird and different, and John Carpenter, who created the series way back in 1970, whatever, called the movie a departure in a recent interview.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I have my thoughts because I forget if this was ever official, but they've made it as clear as they could without saying it that they will never kill him off just so that they can dust him back off in a couple years if they want to.
They can make more money.
Yeah.
Bring him back out for more money.
So I'm interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, I was a really big fan of the first one. The first requel, Halloween 2018.
Yeah, it was 2018, and I do have just a quick little funny story about that.
Oh boy.
Our experience with that. He knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we saw it together.
Saw it together when it came out. We were sophomores in college, and I don't know, maybe a week later, I was helping you clean out your dorm, and I saw the ticket just laying on the windowsill. I grabbed it and I said, "Hey, Aaron, look, it's the ticket from Halloween." And he goes, "We saw it on Friday." And I was like, "No, you dumbass. Halloween the movie."
Oh my god! It took me a couple tries to actually understand what you were saying too. It wasn't like I just got it right away either.
No,
So
I saw the wheels slowly starting to turn and turn until finally you're like, oh.
Smoke was coming out of my ears.
Yeah, that hamster was clocking overtime.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm really excited for this movie. I don't really like horror movies all that much, but for whatever reason, slashers like Halloween, for some reason, I can actually enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
So, whatever. We'll see. We'll see how the next one is. Next thing that we got is another new series potentially. Not potentially, it's actually coming out, but
it is happening.
Yeah, it is happening. But if you haven't been keeping up, there's a TV show on Amazon Prime called The Boys. Very good show. We've talked about it on our previous episode. So if you haven't heard that, go check that out. But it's a great superhero type show. Definitely a departure from how Marvel approaches superheroes.
How everyone
does. But they're actually spinning off that show to do a new show called, I think it's called Generation V. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but it's like a college set spin-off with a whole new cast. And it's got the same frontrunners. Eric Kripke is the executive producer, who he also does The Boys. And The Boys is really well regarded. It's one of the top shows on streaming right now, so I'm really excited about that.
Me too. I'm always interested when they can take a universe that they create and flesh it out a bit more. Because I believe they have like a little mini show called D for Diabolical, which is like an
animated.
Yeah, it's like an animated show that doesn't. I think it's like an anthology. Like all the episodes don't really relate, but it's fun, and I'm really excited to see if they can keep this going, because I know we've made it clear before, but I love this show, and if they can just check off this box as well, I might just combust, I think.
It's not for the faint of heart. So if you're thinking about checking it out, just you know you're going into a really crazy show.
It's edgy.
I don't even think edgy is the right word for it. Like it's something. But from that show, we're gonna go to another trailer that came out, an actual trailer that came out.
Also, I believe from Amazon Prime.
Also from Amazon Prime. For Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Yes, this episode brought to you by Amazon Prime. No, not really.
No.
Please don't sue us.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
We're sorry.
No, the Lord of the Rings, The Ring of Power, Rings of Power, which is set to be the most expensive production of a show in history. I think they're spending like over $1 billion. I think it was that they said.
Yeah, I think they made a 5-season commitment already.
Yeah, I mean they're going hard on this show, but they just released the first trailer, the first like real trailer of the show. It looks good, but I'm very, very cautious about it. And I tweeted this on our Twitter the other day when it came out. One of the things that made the original Lord of the Rings trilogy so magical, and even was lost a little bit in the Hobbit trilogy, was the fact that everything was practical in that movie that could be. Obviously, some of your monsters and some of your sets were not practical, but a lot of things were shot on location, especially in the first one. So it had a very grounded feeling, even for being a fantasy movie. And I really, really hope that they capture that in this one as well, because if they don't, it's going to be a huge miss for me. It really is.
How do you think this will compare to the Game of Thrones sort of prequel spin-off series?
I think that... Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, just in terms of capturing the essence of the source material and fleshing out. Because I think, I hadn't seen The Hobbit, so I'm not going to speak on that, the Lord of the Rings Hobbit side, but from the Game of Thrones side, I know it's just chalk at this point. Everyone kind of feels the same, but the starting sentiment from the show all the way to the ending sentiment could not be any more different.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think that this Rings of Power can satisfy the fans of the original?
I think it'll be a tough ask to do because you're basically taking like all new characters and practically new source material. I mean, J.R.R. Tolkien only really wrote. I mean, he wrote Lord of the Rings and he wrote the Silmarillion, which is kind of like a sequel slash, expanded universe type of book. But he didn't even finish that. He died before that was done. Mm-hmm. So this is like trying to explore a lot of things that weren't really fleshed out in the original in the books. So I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see how it's done. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that they do a good job with it, but like we saw with Game of Thrones, after they had to stray away from the source material, the show quality went downhill. So I'm hoping that they avoid that.
Me too. And I think I should probably get into watching the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, but if the feedback from this new show is even remotely positive, I think I'll be giving it a shot.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm willing to watch it. It comes out. What does it come out later this year?
I think
September. I think.
Yeah,
I can fact check that. Rings of Power comes out in 2022 September. I knew it.
That's why he's the mentor of this show.
That's why I'm the host.
Yeah, that's why I'm second fiddle here.
But yeah, so a little bit of news. But I want to play a game, Connor. I want to play a game.
Go for it.
I want to play a game that I've happily titled "You've Lost the Plot."
Alrighty.
The guessing game on real or fake movie plots. So I have a group of few movies. Some of them are real, some of them are fake. Mm-hmm. I'm going to read off one to you, and you're going to tell me which one, or if it's real or if it's fake.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, it's very simple.
I'm ready.
All right, ready? Ready for the first one? Mm-hmm. I've got 4. So you ready for the first one?
Yes.
Okay. So this one's called. This one. It's not called anything.
This one is called.
I wasn't even gonna say. I wasn't gonna say like what. Yeah. All right. So, aliens invade Earth, dressed in hideous clown makeup, and trap humans in cotton candy cocoons.
I know that's true. That's Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Hey, that would be Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That's a real movie, 1988. I was like kind of a layup, but I figured it would kind of get us into the groove of the game.
Like I said, horror is my forte. I won't even necessarily call that movie a horror movie, but if
it's just weird.
It counts.
Yes. All right, next one.
One for one.
A man gets into a serious car accident and is thought to be dead. Only he wakes up 20 years later after his grave is unearthed due to a mudslide.
I don't think that one's real.
You would be correct. That is a fake movie that I came up with myself.
That's good.
That was pretty good. I was proud of that one. I was really proud of that one.
2 for 2, baby.
2 for 2. I'm very, very impressed. All right, this one. These aren't your typical New York City cockroaches. They're obnoxious little insects who sing, dance, crack jokes, and cockblock poor Joe.
If I'm going to say this
is this real or is this fake?
I'm going to say this is fake, but if I'm wrong, I need every single detail about this show or movie. Sorry,
this would be real. This is a real thing. This is a movie. I believe it's an MTV movie from 1996 called Joe's Apartment.
Jesus Christ!
that has talking and singing cockroaches.
Poor Joe.
Poor Joe. Poor Joe. I never heard of this movie before this, but now I really want to watch it.
Yeah, I think we have to. We'll add that to our
watch along. I think we need to do a watch along of this movie. So stay tuned for our Patreon. where we start watching watching old campy movies and B movies.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last one here. A lovable loser falls in love with a department store mannequin that takes the form of a long-dead Egyptian beauty.
See, math would say that this one is fake for a 50-50 split. My heart is saying that this is fake because I feel like that's a bit similar to a lot of other things, but I don't think it's that exact plot. But I have a dumb brain, and I'm saying that's real.
That is real, Connor Jameson. You've gone 3 for 4. That is a movie called Mannequin from 1987.
Let's go, baby. Listen, they put me in the Hall of Fame right now if I played baseball.
Yeah, so those are all I had for you with 3 for 4, 75%. Very, very impressive. I was hoping I'd stump you on at least one of them, and I did.
You got me with Joseph.
I almost
Hartman.
got you on the other one.
Yeah.
Well, that was
so
worth it.
It's funny. What did you say this segment was called?
You've lost the plot.
So originally we had determined to call this segment Movie or BS. So I just want to, taking that kind of concept, I just want to ask you, I'm going to do my own. So the plot is a lovable bear from people's childhood and his friend Pig are murderous slashers dead set on killing everyone. Would you say that's a real movie?
I would tell you that would be fake. 100%.
You would think. But no. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, a horror movie starring once lovable little round bear Winnie the Pooh is set to come out. I don't think I saw a date. I don't know if I want to see a date.
I know that they just released the poster for it, and it looks incredibly bad. And I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
So I just want to share some facts about this. So first things first, Winnie the Pooh, you would think, wouldn't be allowed to be in a movie like this, right? You know, because he's a staple for everyone's childhood. Was it? They had a Winnie the Pooh movie, actually.
Yeah, it was called Christopher Robin. It was with Ewan McGregor, who's one of my favorite actors.
Yeah. But no, the copyright expired on Winnie the Pooh, which made him public domain. So what that means is now anyone has the right to use Winnie the Pooh in their work. So I'm glad the first thought that someone had with that is, I'm going to make this bear kill teens and young adults.
I love it. It's just so ridiculous. It's one of those movies that, like, everyone making it knows it's bad, but it's just fun, and it's gonna make money.
What if I told you this film was shot in only 10 days?
Oh my
only
God.
10 days.
10 days.
When I say we're gonna have a masterpiece on our hands, I mean it. And you know, the other reason I bring this up too is because if you think like, oh, you know, Winnie the Pooh, maybe that's just like it's a one-off type thing of like a thing from my past being used in like a nice dark way, you'd be incorrect again. Because
on the same day,
keep this in mind. Daniel Kaluuya, I don't know. Fantastic actor. He's been working with Jordan Peele a lot, and he's stepping into a more creative role, and he is making a live-action, dark Barney the dinosaur movie. Barney.
Amazing creative choices by Mr. Kaluuya, and seemingly foregoing being in Black Panther to work on his Barney movie. This is a sentence I never thought I'd say ever in my life.
The Barney bag is deep.
It's been secured.
Because I don't know how much detail is out there, but he did, Daniel said, Barney taught us, I love you, you love me, won't you say you love me too? What if that wasn't true? And he's going to make a whole movie, presumably around that subject.
I honestly, honest to God, this had never been an opinion before in my life, but now that I've heard about these two movies, I think they should go back and remake every single children's character into a horror movie. Every single one.
The second it becomes available, I don't want there to be any fair game. I want anything that I grew up with. Sid the Science Kid. I want to see him in like a Reanimator type movie where he's just using his science skills to bring back the dead.
It's going to be incredible. I am beyond excited.
I am
so excited. And speaking of stuff that we're excited for, it's stuff that we've seen. What have you been watching lately, Connor?
So I've been on a little bit of.
Do you like that segue? By the way,
I think we've been on a heaters with our segues.
We've been on fire. All right, continue.
I did a little 2-for. So last episode I said that I had been watching The Boys and Stranger Things and Peaky Blinders. Mm-hmm. I've been watching some movies recently. I watched Lightyear and The Black Phone. How about you, sir?
So I'm in the middle of watching The Bad Guys, and yes, I'm one of those people that can pause a movie and come back to it at a later time.
What's it like?
It's great. I know I have no problem remembering what's going on in movies, and sometimes having it more time to watch it makes me digest it a little bit more and understand what's going on, and I love it. Don't come at me, or do. Come at me on Twitter, @FilmboxPod.
And if you're like me, who has a terrible memory, sound off, Team Connor. Team Bad Brains.
Team Good Brains. So I've been watching The Bad Guys. I'm planning on watching The Gray Man when it comes out on Netflix in a few days.
That looks.
I think a week from now. They just had their premiere. And then I also watched Hustle with Adam Sandler, which was quite good. And I actually posted a TikTok about it. Did a little mini review. So you can go check that out on our TikTok as well. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've been watching. I started Abbott Elementary. And through the first 2 episodes, they're short, kind of like The Office, mockumentary style, but really, really funny. Really, really good. So very impressed with it so far. Definitely deserving of the Emmy nods that we talked about last week. Mm-hmm. And then also started The Blacklist with my girlfriend. We're working on that right now. Just started, so.
Sounds like fun.
Been busy person.
Yeah. All right. You ready?
And so, yes. So the meat and potatoes of our podcast here today, what we really wanted to talk about, and what you no doubt saw in the title, was we wanted to do our first sort of behind the scenes dive into the making of a movie, a significant movie in our past. Jesus Christ, my cat! Ridiculous.
Someone's excited.
A really significant. Yeah, someone's excited for this. That's staying in. I'm leaving that in. No, something really. A movie really significant. The original Star Wars from 1977. Mm-hmm. It's something I know a lot about and can speak on. So I think it was really, really good to have a sort of jumping off point for this segment going forward. But it also had a really, really interesting production history.
Yeah, so I was never a big Star Wars fan growing up, but even I had heard teeny bits of stories from behind the scenes, and I honestly thought, man, that must have been a wild set to be on.
Oh, it was something else. So, without further ado, George Lucas, who created the series, he actually had his first idea for like a sort of sci-fi fantasy type film back in 1971 while he was working on his first full-length feature film, which was THX 1138, which is a really, really trippy film. It's not for everyone. I don't even know if it's really widely available or if you can even watch it. It's really kind of strange, but he was a huge Flash Gordon fan, to the point where he originally, when he was working on trying to make this sci-fi film, tried to acquire the rights to Flash Gordon to make a new Flash Gordon movie instead of Star Wars. So that was like the first big thing, and he actually went with Francis Ford Coppola to try and buy the rights, and couldn't do it. He could not do it. They wouldn't give it to him, so he actually signed a deal with United Artists for 2 films. One of them was American Graffiti, which was a movie also you should absolutely check out. It was like his first big-time film, and then a space opera was how it was titled. And so then he went to work. He started writing. He wrote a ton, like constantly. He said he was writing 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So literally full-time job just trying to write this movie. And actually came up with a little compilation, like a little, just like a synopsis called Journal of the Wills, which was kind of like an intro to what the Star Wars story would be. Took it around, really didn't get anywhere with it a whole lot. And then just kept writing, actually finished this full like actual plot, this actual script, and then hired a few storyboard artists to concept art it, try and get it to sell, and actually met up with a guy named Ralph McQuarrie. Ralph McQuarrie is very significant to Star Wars because he's actually the one that ended up really selling it to production companies. Obviously United Artists had told him, like, yes, you can do a space opera, but no one really wanted to sign off on it because it was weird. It was 1970 whatever, and it was just this weird film that they didn't think they could make, and they didn't think would make a lot of money. But Ralph McQuarrie made some amazing concept art, which you can still see that actually sold the film in quite a few ways. But yeah, so that's kind of how it came to be. Casting was really, really interesting. They cast Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. There were quite a few people that auditioned for for Mark Hamill, but what George
for Mark
really
Hamill
wanted to focus on I was going so well. I was doing so well for Luke Skywalker.
I can't let you just ride that one off.
It went right over me too. Oh man. So lots of people were up for Luke Skywalker, but Mark Hamill wanted someone who was unknown.
Mark Hamill wanted him unknown?
Did I say that again? Oh my god. So George Lucas wanted someone that was unknown to play the role of Luke Skywalker, and he actually wanted someone unknown for every role, but ended up not doing that too much. But yeah, he cast Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, and then while he was doing other castings, doing stuff like that, he actually had Harrison Ford, who was in American Graffiti, just in there to read lines, and ended up really liking him and cast him as Han Solo. Over, get this. Here's the list of people that auditioned for Han Solo. Ready?
Go for it.
Kurt Russell,
boy,
Nick Nolte, Sylvester Stallone, Bill Murray, Christopher Walken, Burt Reynolds, Jack Nicholson, James Caan, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, and Perry King. All those people auditioned for Han Solo. And we got Harrison Ford, the genius, just had his birthday, like
happy
2 days ago.
belated birthday.
And then Carrie Fisher as Leia, the great Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan, there was a lot of, while he was filming after the film came out, a lot of people speculated and said that he actually didn't like being in the film. Really isn't true. There were some letters where he said, like, he doesn't get it, he doesn't really like it, whatever, but at the end of the day, he actually has come out and said, or he did before he passed away, he said he really, really enjoyed and really liked Star Wars as a film and enjoyed his time there. So a lot of the things that you hear about him hating Star Wars are not actually true. Just keep that in mind. But yeah, so Star Wars was cast, and then they started filming in 1975, I believe. And so it was really, really interesting. They chose some really great sets. Obviously, they needed something for Tatooine, which is the main planet in the original Star Wars. And initially, it was going to be a jungle planet. And then they went up to the jungle, and they were like, nope, not doing this. And they chose the desert. So they actually went to Tunisia to film the movie. And in 1975, George Lucas formed ILM, which is Industrial Lights and Magic, the visual effects company, specifically because Fox had disbanded their visual effects department. When you look at it today, from today's lens, just totally getting rid of a visual effects department is nuts.
Because we had talked about last week how, like, Marvel's VFX team was being overworked and they were starting to come out. Imagine if they had just axed that whole department.
It'd be impossible to make a movie.
Yeah. And that's in today's standards. I know the concepts of visual effects have changed over time, but still, just imagine the grand scale of what that did.
Yes. So what was crazy about ILM is that they actually had to invent the things that they were doing to be. It wasn't like you hired a VFX team and it's like they went into their program and start. They legit had to invent how to make special effects, which is nuts. Absolutely insane. I can't even imagine trying to do that. They, like, being the inventors of, like, this is how you do practical and virtual effect explosions on screen, and this is how you film it, and this is what you use to shoot it. And it's like, what?
Yeah. One of my favorite things about behind the scenes, especially with, as I've been saying, like horror movies, is listening to how the effects team works on bodies, like body double type, the monsters. Because a lot of times, especially with the older movies, they didn't have to invent the concept of like practical effects, but it was so much trial and error that led to just the standard for movies to come. It's really incredible to look into.
It is really kind of crazy. And ILM is still going strong today, and they're still like one of the leaders in visual effects in the film industry. So the fact that this company, that was started by Lucas, has the staying power in the industry is just a testament to the work that they do. But yeah, so Industrial Lights and Magic was founded. They started filming in Tunisia, and on the second day of filming, or within the first week of filming, Tunisia had the worst rainstorm in 50 years during the first week of filming. Flooded out the entire sets. I mean, you couldn't, they say, you couldn't really see where the land ended and the sky began because it was all just a gray mess. I mean, it was so bad. And this is a country that doesn't rain at all. It's a desert. They had their worst rainstorm in 50 years. After 2.5 weeks, they finished filming in Tunisia, moved over to their other location, which was Elstree Studios near London. And this was... for all their interior sets, stuff like within the Death Star, all that kind of stuff was all within. And they chose it specifically because they needed 9 sound stages simultaneously to shoot this movie. 9.
Jeez.
And they couldn't get that in Hollywood. They couldn't get that pretty much anywhere else. This was like one of the only places that they could use 9 sound stages. And while they were filming, it was like extremely common for George Lucas to just not even be there because he was working on other scenes and other sound stages. Like they were just going crazy with stuff. But yeah, so they filmed, they just could not, they really struggled getting back on track. But they ended up finishing, and then they worked on post-production, and that's a whole other mess. A whole other mess for this movie. And at this point already, the 20th Century Fox was fed up with the production and wanted to cancel it. But there was one person within that boardroom, that said no. Said this movie is going to be made. And there's a very famous thing that if you watch the actual documentary for the making of the original 3 Star Wars movies, they were in the boardroom, and this one man, I think it was Ernie Ladd Jr., I believe that's who it was, but don't quote me on that. They were all sitting around, like, grilling him, like, why are we still making this movie? We need to cancel it, whatever. And then he just looked at the ball and said, "This is the greatest movie that's ever been made." And that was it. And it totally shut down the room, and they continued production. But yeah, so moving on to post-production, they initially had like a first cut of the movie, and they screened it to people, and it was horrible. I mean, this was a Star Wars movie without any visual effects yet, and cut in a way that people said was just terrible, absolutely awful. So George Lucas actually fired his editor, and then replaced him with Paul Hirsch and Richard Chew, and also his wife at the time, Marcia Lucas, who was an editor in Hollywood.
Power couple.
And they started cutting together, power couple. And they started cutting together a new version of the movie. And fun fact, Steven Spielberg was the only person to like the movie when it came out, or when they did that first screening.
I mean, all it takes is one person, really.
This is very true.
As long as it's just happens to be Spielberg.
Well, and so they actually did a really good job. They ended up using right down to the very last frame of cuts quite a few times. They cut it so that they reused scenes and stuff like that. Like throughout scenes, they reused stuff. They repeated little sections to make things last longer. Like they were down to the bare bones. I mean, there were things that like you were getting to, like they said that the very next frame on some of their reels was the end reel frame. So like they were really pushing it. But yeah, during that time too, sorry, it was Alan Ladd, by the way, not Ernie Ladd. I just want to point that out. I knew it was Alan. I just want to point that out. Industrial Lights and Magic was really, really struggling. According to the documentary, they had spent half of their budget on 4 shots. And those 4 shots, George Lucas said that those 4 shots were unacceptable. So, they had to create a year's worth of work in 6 months and make it usable for film on half the budget that they were allotted. And they did it. They figured it out. And one of the other things that was really, really impressive was I just want to highlight Ben Burtt, who was the original sound director. He made all the sounds from scratch. There was no like soundboard. There was no sound library, really. Not for this kind of movie, especially at the time. He went out and recorded everything and made all the sounds of Star Wars. And he's an absolute genius and should be commended for all of his work, because that's basically revolutionized the sci-fi industry. But yeah, so they, in 1977, after a delay, they actually finished the movie. They were $2 million over budget, but they finished it. They got it out there, and it was actually released on May 25th, and was only shown to 37 theaters across the country, and blew up. Absolutely blew up, and it became one of the best-selling movies of the year, one of the best performing premieres, one of the best movies of all time. But it was, I mean, this movie was one yes from being canned.
It's remarkable. Literally, it's like just against all the odds.
Honestly, it really is. I mean, there's the fact that this movie was even made is a miracle, and the fact that it was as good as it was is a miracle.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where we are today. Star Wars spawned 2 sequels, and the 2 immediate sequels, 3 prequels, and then a sequels to the sequels and spin-offs and shows. And I mean, it's one of the biggest franchises of all time. I'm sure you know it. So
yes, especially now that
really, really
Disney owns it. And as we have been talking about with Marvel before, they are just pumping out the content.
Whew. Wow.
Let me give you a break from talking for a bit.
I feel like a weight has been lifted off of my chest.
Yeah.
Getting through that.
The reason that Aaron kind of took control there is, as I kind of mentioned, I had never been a big Star Wars fan. It actually was Aaron who got me to watch the 3 originals, the 3 prequels, the 3 sequels.
You, for the longest time, were adamant that you would never see Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I am so glad that you changed your mind.
I'll watch it if I want to, but the second someone tells me I should, I immediately take it off my list.
Mhm.
I'm a free spirit like that. Can't be tied down to anyone's recommendations.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, but I'm glad you got me to eventually watch it, because I think the first time you asked me to watch it was probably freshman year of college when we met.
No, it was freshman year of college,
And
and I remember it specifically because we went to see The Force Awakens in theaters, and on the way back, my car wouldn't start after the movie theater, and this was finals week.
The last day of finals.
The last day of finals.
I had an 8 a.m. final, and we were sitting in a parking lot until probably like 1 or 2 a.m. waiting for your car.
It was a long drive.
Yes.
We had like a 40-minute drive home, too. It was so bad.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
man.
you know what?
And I almost ran out of gas on the way home.
Oh, yeah, that too. And we were scared that if you turned your car off to get gas, it just wouldn't turn back on again.
Yep.
Yeah, fun times.
So, yeah, that was something. But it was well worth it. It was a fun time, and I'm glad that did not deter you for very long from seeing the rest of the series.
To be fair, it was, I guess, technically last year that I sat down and watched them. So I still waited it out 4 years since your initial request.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
You got there eventually. That's all that matters.
Exactly. So to wrap up this little, I guess, part of the behind the scenes, I just had some fun facts I wanted to share that I discovered.
Let's hear it.
So the first fact is Carrie Fisher. She played Leia, of course. For those of you who have even just seen a picture from A New Hope, she has a very iconic hairstyle with the buns that cover her ears. What I found out is that hairstyle was influenced by the women who fought in the Mexican Revolution of the 1910s and 20s.
I didn't know that.
She referred to it as the hairy earphone configuration in her memoir.
That sounds like Carrie Fisher.
Yeah. Did you know that the actor who played Darth Vader, David Prowse, and the actor who voiced Darth Vader, James Earl Jones, never met each other at all?
Interesting.
In 2015, they tried to schedule a meeting, and I think it was like an ash cloud just prevented them from linking up, and they never got to see each other.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. Kind of seeing as how the two people made up the most iconic villain ever, and they just never knew each other.
Yeah. Never met, never during filming, never after, just...
Interesting.
Finally, there is a trash compactor scene in the movie. But Mark Hamill actually explained on Twitter that during the filming of that scene, he popped a blood vessel in his face from holding his breath too long. So they had to shoot all of his shots to the side so they wouldn't show it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so if you're gonna watch A New Hope, that's something to see if you notice.
Yeah. Wow. I think that was rather successful. Little cliff notes behind the scenes of the making of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like you got some Rotten Tomatoes for me.
Yeah, we're gonna end on another game. Aaron got me with his fake movies or not, so I will now quiz him by listing a movie that I'm gonna keep it relatively new and seeing if he can guess the Rotten Tomato critic score for. Aaron, are you ready?
I am ready.
Since you had brought it up in your What You Want to Watch segment, The Gray Man.
I do know, I believe this is like at a 65%, something like that.
52%.
52%? That sounds about right.
You're in the ballpark. That's kind of like that average score.
Yeah.
Yep. Something that's in theaters right now. Thor, Love and Thunder.
That's interesting because I know it is not widely loved.
You'd be correct there.
I'm gonna say that's actually 62%.
You know what? You're close enough. 68%.
Hey, you know what? That's not.
I
bad.
think if
That's
if
not
you're
bad.
within the if you're in the 60s, I'd give it to you.
Okay.
Another one that I think is still in theaters right now, Jurassic World Dominion.
Oh God. Oh, I have no idea. I think people liked it. I think I'm gonna go with like a 70.
So this is an interesting one.
Oh boy.
Critics gave this a 30%.
A 30?
30. But
oh my lord.
the audience gave it a 77.
Hey.
Now, I recently
30?
saw this movie. I think I lean more with the critics.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't like it at all.
You know what? I thought people liked it. I don't watch Jurassic, so wouldn't know.
Yeah, I think it's one of those fun movies, not necessarily good movies. Last one, Top Gun Maverick.
This one I know people liked. I'm going to say that's like an 88%.
I'll give you another guess, because I want you to get a little closer.
92%.
97.
Holy shit!
97.
97? Damn.
Do you want to know what the audience gave it?
Was that good? What?
A 99.
Wow. Oh my god, I didn't know it was that good. Jesus, I gotta go watch it.
I've seen it twice. It is worth the 90.
Is it
the
really?
98 average score?
Really? Okay.
But just as a comparison, you want to know what the original Top Gun scored at?
I do. Please tell me what the original was.
58.
Wow, it's that. Wow, that's nuts. That's really, really crazy. The fact that they made the original was so much worse. The sequel was so much better. You don't see that very often, really.
You really don't. And I think age just really helped this movie out. They made it so good.
That's impressive. Wow. I got a joke for you, Connor, to end this little podcast.
I am not excited.
Oh, I think you're ready about this. Speaking of movie reviews.
Okay.
Did you know that I stopped paying attention to the movie reviews after critics raved about The Green Mile?
Why is that?
Well, it was a great concept, but it was a terrible execution. Hey, that's going to do it for the Film Box Podcast Episode 2. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.
Goodbye.